And welcome back. Now, before we go back to the audience to get more audience participation, there's a question I'd like to pose to you, the INEC representative. Now, there appears to be loopholes in the laws guiding spending for elections. For instance, Section 91, subsection 8B disregards any expenditure incurred before the notification of a date fixed for the election. And it appears that some candidates have taken advantage of this loophole.
Yeah, election expense is counted from the day INEC gives notice for election, not before. That's what the law provides. Yeah. So expenses incurred or done before the date INEC announces the notice for election are not counted as part of the election expenses. So you can call that a loophole.
It is a loophole.
But the bigger issue is how do you track the money? Does the law cover tracking of the money? To me, that's where a bigger loophole is there. You already have spoken about the difference between a candidate and a party in terms of expenditure and in terms of reporting. Now, the Commission's duty of tracking these expenses is actually a challenge that can only be met in collaboration with civil society, CBN, all the other organizations that relate to this type of thing. Because there's no law now, for example, if you compare with some other countries where all election expenses must pass through an account in a bank. There's no such thing in this country. That's a loophole. If there's a requirement that all election expenses, well, if you want to put a limit, you can put a limit. Otherwise,
you're saying this is like a solution. Yes. Has INEC even volunteered this kind of information to the National Assembly? Because when NAS makes laws, they're public hearings.
Exactly.
So why are we not saying this?
There's an opportunity, the Commission has already made submissions to the National Assembly for each amendment. Even this set of amendments, some of the amendments were recommended by the Commission. So there's always, it's an ongoing thing. And it's also an ongoing challenge for the Commission.
It's rather slow.
To build capacities for parties to even measure what they spend and report it. So this is part of the challenges that we're facing.
Now, still with you, when an incumbent is running for office, how do you different and how does INEC ensure that the incumbent does not use government funds, to run for political office?
Yes, there's a provision in the Electoral Act prohibiting the use of government resources by an incumbent. But now, if a state government owns a television station, for example, and they are running a series of adverts supporting the state governor, INEC is sort of limited in enforcing that. I think NBC will have a greater role to play in that kind of challenge because the law is there for enforcement and INEC is not the sole enforcing power in terms of the laws. There are laws about broadcast. So those ideas of use of state resources is a challenge to measure, first of all, before you can enforce. So if you cannot enforce what you cannot measure, you have to have, for example, the expenditure that is incurred, who pays for the expenditure is a question for you to even determine who did the expenditure. Is it the political party? Is it the candidate? All these issues are there before you can talk about it.
So Mr. Onibinde, how do you address this issue?
It's a bit hard because, for example, you have maybe the governor, the president, he has state security, he has a private jet, he has a retinue of 8 following all around, and the question is how do you draw the line? And it's a bit very, very difficult to draw the line, and so someone is definitely at an advantage compared to others.
There's a school of thought that that incumbents should actually step down. Do you think?
I agree to it. It could be 6 months.
Work in Nigeria?
No, because sometimes we're trying to use the foxes to keep the hen house. So in some sort of way, how are we going to expect the political class, to say, because you deprive me of 6 months of having access to treasury, and you say I should go and I should walk away, and the new guy comes and starts scheming the political structures. It's going to be a bit difficult to make that happen. Even our own conversations on how are we going to reform electoral funding. I guess the way we could go about it, the electorate is where the work is on. I know the electoral vote buying exists in the context of poverty and the socio-economic context. But we need to point out what's the value of a vote. What are the values you vote for? And I think INEC has a big role to play. Anybody buying votes around an election area, there's a police officer around an election area. So what's the police officer doing? There are always intelligence agencies and the military just even around different pockets. And what do they do in that regard? So it's just a collapse of institutions.
Yeah, but INEC will say that, you know, the vote buying doesn't happen. It happens some meters away from the polling unit, so it's really not...
No, because if you look at the voting buy, you don't just give someone money and say, go and vote for me. How are you sure that he or she is going to vote for you? If you look at it, the reality is the guy stands by a corner around the polling booth, looks at you, you show him your voters polling your card, you show him a voter's card and the ballot, or you take a picture. Now they give you a camera and you go take a picture and you come and show the evidence back. And so it's not something that happens meters away. Nobody's a fool. Everybody does that within the around the electorate the polling area. And so that's why for me, it's a collapse of institutions and values.
Mrs. Hassan, vote buying in Ekiti elections.
She's a front row person.
You say I'm by. I think it's not just an Ekiti election. For us, this system has evolved, really. I think it got very, very high in 2014 when the lexicon, stomach infrastructure was introduced. And from that 2014, it has gotten so bad and Hydra-headed. And this is actually predicated really on not societal values also. It's the failure of the dividend of democracy to the people. So in Ondo elections, when we were there, people were saying, Diboko Seobe. That is like, you vote and you cook a pot of soup, because the people had not actually been paid for months. So political parties were paying between 3,000, 2,000, 5,000, which actually made people richer in the elections. So it's systemic collapse. Government is refusing to deliver the dividend of democracy to the people. People are also people are losing hope in the governance system. So they then think that this small thing, this is my right, and it's no longer vote buying. What we have is vote trading. Because even in the Anambra elections, people refused to stand up to vote. They were waiting to be incentivized to vote. Really. Now there is a challenge. Putting the issue of campaign funding just on vote buying is kind of very, very microscopic. And it will not actually deal with our issues. Because again, it goes to the larger question, talking in terms of what exactly do political parties do, and the skewed internal party democracy. Because it goes from level to level. It is when you're already contesting, you're about to contest, you look for who and who will support you. You spend money for 2 years before a godfather actually acquire you and you become his godson. Then you have a path. From having that path, you then go into the elections itself. You don't even go. You go to the primaries. Before you get to the primaries, the godfather is at that level that there is real contest. The people, in fact, one of my friends contesting said, if you cannot invest now, you are not an investor.
Ms. Hassan, I'm going to interrupt you to go to Mr. Yusuf. Now, some have said that this issue of vote buying is not just limited to Nigeria. You know, is this the nature of democracy?
Well, let me even say that in Nigeria, it's unfair to say that everybody is on the take.
Okay.
A great majority of the voters just come and vote and go home. They don't collect anything. I would say 80% of voters actually don't collect money from anybody. So it's not true to generalize and make it look as if all Nigerians are like that. And let me say that historically, we've not always been like that. I lived in an era whereby I attended a political party rally and paid 20 kobo for the ticket to attend the rally. In Kano, I was a member of the PRP. And I had to pay to actually go into a cinema to attend the rally of the political party. What happened between that era and now? So there are so many problems in that spectrum that we need to disentangle in order to understand what is going on. And also, there is a demand and supply problem. If there's no demand, there won't be supply. Why is it that, we are moving in the direction of commercializing our vote? So there are bigger, much bigger societal issues and problems that we need to look at. It doesn't start at the point of buying the vote. It starts from somewhere. The buying of the vote is a manifestation of the problem. And we need to understand what is that problem that brought us to this point.